Head over to miniaturemarket.com where there's thousands of board games at discounted prices like Longshot the Dice Game. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. You're about to see my Allegro 1-minute overview and final thoughts. This is designed to see if this game warrants more of your time. If it does, just keep watching because then you'll see my full intro overview and final thoughts. However, if you don't want to be spoiled anything and you want to skip right to the full review, use the time index below in YouTube. Longshot the Dice Game is a horse racing roll and write game for 1 to 8 players where you're trying to have the most money in the end by gathering horses, betting on them, and influencing them. So the horses will start at the line and they're going to be running around trying to be the first, second, or third to finish. And horses will be worth a certain amount of money at the end if they're the ones that win, but only if you're the ones that end up buying those horses. But you might not be trying to buy them, you might be making bets on the horses that you know are going to win or are likely to win to make a lot of money that way. And each round, a specific horse is going to move, but other horses will move as well. And over the course of the game, you can influence which horses will also move, making your bets more likely to succeed. All players will take action based on this horse, and you'll keep doing this until 3 horses have finished. But there's many other strategies, like breaking the rule, being able to bet on the horse in the home stretch, or changing the die to any color you want that round, or filling up rows and columns to get super huge bonuses. Most money wins. This has cartoony art that I love, fits the theme, genre, and length of the game. It's a roll and write that doesn't feel like a roll and write. It feels more like a betting game, and it stands out in the betting racing games as much as Camel Up and Downforce. This is as good, if not better, than those at certain player counts. It's great at lower player counts, even 2, which those other games aren't. There's a lot of table talk when you add more players. This is the economics of money and what you're going to do and what is worth money, because money is points at the end of the game. The wilds give you the flexibility to never get stuck, and using those well can help win you the game. Are you going to own the horse? Are you going to bet on the horse? Are you going to try to do both? Are you going to work with others? You get this cool puzzle of the concessions of trying to get these cool bonuses at the right time, and great decisions that interact with all other players. With the higher player count, you have a little bit less control, so it shines at 2, 3, and 4 players, and the horses are sometimes hard to fit in some of the corner spots and you'll be knocking them over a little bit. But overall, this game is fantastic, one of the better racing games out there for sure, and it got a Saxophone Serenade. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. We're at the racetracks today watching those horses race, and we're going to be trying to bet on the long shot, manipulating that horse to make sure it comes in first, second, or third somehow. Hopefully we own it and we bet a lot on it. Today we're taking a look at Longshot the Dice Game. This is a new game that's just coming out that's based off the original full board game called Longshot. Let me show you how it's played. I'll see you on the other side. In Longshot the Dice Game, you're trying to have the most money on the end. Each player will have their own board that they'll be running themselves, and you're going to be betting on and influencing all sorts of different horses. There's 8 of them, and over the course of the game, you're going to be betting on them, making them go faster, trying to win, and at the end, you're trying to make the most money. So let's show you how this works. Now the game has a board, and there's these nice chunky wooden bits that are the horses. They look beautiful, they're screen printed, and they're going to be racing around this board. That's going to be a big thing of how you figure out how you're doing, who wins. So let me show you what you're trying to do. These horses are all going to start here, and they're all going to start racing around, and whoever comes in first place will be here, second place, third place, and then there'll be a certain, everyone else will just be stuck at the end of the game. So let's just assume that horse 3 came in first, then 2, then 5. This is actually exactly how my last 2-player game went. And to show you, 3 came in first, 2 came in second, and 5 came in third. I actually owned each of these 3 horses, so let's show you how this goes. So what are you trying to do? Again, you're trying to get the most money. Now you're going to get the most money by a few different ways. Number 1 is going to be if you make money by having those different horses come in first, second, or third. And so whoever owns the first horse is going to get $35, $25 for second, and $15 for third. I had all 3 of them here, so I got a total of $75. Then we look next. Each helmet and jersey combination of a horse that I have together is going to be worth $5. Now they do other things too, I'll tell you later. So this is 5, 5, 5, 10. Here's betting. Now remember, horse 3 came in first. I had bet $5 on that horse. And if it came in first, I'm going to get 6. So 6 times 5, I got 30. Horse 2 came in second. I bet $3 on that, times 4 gave me 12. And the third horse came in third place. So this is 5 for third place, times 9. So I have the 45 there. Now I bet $4 on orange, and they didn't come in anywhere, so I lost all that money. However, there's a line here that says no bet. By default, if a horse is past this line almost on the home stretch here, you can't bet on them. However, if they do end up finishing past this line, you at least get your money back. So if it had passed that line, which is that icon right there, I would have gotten $1 for each of those. I would have got my $4 back, but I didn't. So all this made me $87. I also had $5 left over, so I got $177. So that's the main way that you win. So let's talk about how you go about doing these different decisions and making this money. So as you imagine, the horses all start right behind the line. Now each player starts with $12 that you write in here, then each player gets a random card that tells you how to start. It tells you which spots on here you'll mark off and how much initial bets that you have on which horses. So everyone, it's a little asymmetric starting. Now going clockwise, the active player is going to roll these 2 dice. This is going to tell you which horse is active, and this is going to tell you how much they move. So in this case, horse number 3 is going to move 2. So we go up here to horse number 3, it's going to go 1, 2 ahead. However, you also then look at horse number 3. Now, each horse has a certain amount of indirect movements from or additional movements from other horses. Like number 3, you look down here, and horse number 1 has an X. So horse number 1 will move 1 as well. Those X's always just move horses 1 regardless of the dice number. Now you'll notice, let's say horse number 1 is on 1, 2, 3 other cards. Where like horses 7 and 8, they aren't checked off by default on any of the other cards. And this is what gives the horses a starting betting. Because these are checked off and will move more often because they're already seated on other additional movements on other horses, you're going to get less money if you bet $1 here. You're going to get 5 if it comes in first, but if this horse comes in first, you get 9. So that's the reason why these odds are different statistically, is because of the way that the game starts off. There's ways to manipulate that, as I'll show you later. Then each player, starting with that player and going clockwise, is going to take an action based on this die, and there's different actions you can take. One of them is you can do a jersey action. So we have number 3, we go number 3, and we cross off the jersey. Now that lets you make an X on that horse. Remember, this is the horse that was activated this round, but you can mark off any of the horses. Now we look at this, my starting bets. I have red and blue. Now red is already pretty much more likely to win, but I've got a pretty good bet here, so why don't we make 6 go? So every time that 3 is rolled, 6 is going to go 1 as well. So I'm increasing the odds that that horse is going to place well, but it's also going to affect the decisions that all other players make. Now that 6 is better, other players might try to buy the horse. They might try to also influence. They might try to bet on it with you. So there's a lot of interaction between the players here. Now once you've done your single action for that horse, it would pass to the left, and the next player would take their action. All players around in clockwise order are going to take an action for that horse number 3. And then you start a new round. The next player to your left is the new start player. They'll roll the dice, and you do this over and over. But now I'm just going to show you all the different actions I could have taken with this die. Let's go to the helmet. The helmet, first of all, if you get 2 of the same type, again, you'll get $5 extra at the end of the game. Now this allows you to, if a horse is past the no betting line, you'd be able to essentially bet on it. As I showed you earlier, there's a line here. Once a horse passes this, you can't bet on it unless you have the helmet for that horse. So you can kind of wait and see how close a horse gets before you bet, but you are spending a turn to kind of allow yourself to do that. Now you can buy that horse. Again, this round the die was 3. If that horse is still available, you can buy it. Only one person can buy it. Once they're bought, they have it for the rest of the game. Each of the horses are a different value. The ones that are more likely to win off the bat from default cost more. These ones cost less, but they each have an ability too, and they all do different things. There's actually 2 different sets of horses in the game that you can choose from. You can, like this is a little apple symbol. You can choose to use completely different sets, or you can mix and match. And actually, there was a Kickstarter exclusive that had a 3rd set of horses as well. For example, if you had bought, if the purple horse was rolled, you bought that one for $4. Well, if you take the helmet action, you get to move that horse an additional 1. Or if we did buy this one, let's show you what this ability does, because I loved this ability. Now this one says if you take the concession action, which is this, you can mark this. So normally, if you take this 3, you could mark a 3, like right here, let's just say. What you're trying to do is complete rows and columns. I'll show you what that does in a minute. But now that you have this horse, anytime you mark that, you can treat this as a +1 or a -1. So let's say, oh, I rolled a 3, I get to mark it. Again, you're only doing this once per turn, but this could be a 5 or a 4. Maybe I do something like this. And then maybe on a future turn, the die that's rolled is a 6, and I want to take this action again. Anytime you finish a row and column, and sometimes you'll finish both, you have a huge turn, you have all these bonuses you can check. So you could just get $7, and that's big because, hey, I bought this horse for 8, I had 12, so now I only have $4 back. right? So that's how you keep track of your money, because I've spent 8. But here you can gain $7. Or you can move 2 horses forward 2, or 2 horses back 2, or a horse back 3, a horse ahead 3. You can make free bets that are $3. We'll talk about that in a second. And here are some other things. Like you could just buy any horse that's available and you don't have to pay the cost. Mark these things off on any horse, things like that. So there's lots of different options here. We haven't talked about betting yet, so let's assume that we went to here and we wanted to bet. When you bet, you have to bet on the horse that's rolled, and you can bet $1, $2, or $3, and you basically put it here. So if I bet $3 on number 3, I would put 3 here, and I would just subtract 3 from this, so now I have $1 left. If it was this horse I was betting on, I would just erase that number and add to it. So if I bet 3 on this one, instead of it being 4, it'd be 7, and I subtract the money. That's how betting works. Those are pretty much all the actions that you take throughout the game. Now there are 3 wilds, which are really cool. 3 times per game, you can X these off and say, you know what, this isn't a 3, I'm gonna make it anything I want, I'm gonna take any action I want. Really powerful. And if you ever fill this up, for a turn, you can pretty much skip your entire turn and wipe your wilds and sort of like start it over again. So that's a really cool way that using the wilds at the right time is key to winning this game. And also remember, it's really important for these to have the horses that win too, because they're going to give you money if they end up coming in first, second, or third. So having the horses and or betting on the right horses is the name of the game. But also influencing the horses in the right way as well. That's pretty much it. You play till the 3rd horse has finished, and then you play the end of that turn, and whoever has the most money at the end is the winner. And there's a solo version that comes with its own board, and the solo player will do certain things based upon what happens and what dice are rolled and what numbers are rolled as well. I tend to like racing games and betting games and things like that. They tend to be fun for me. And so I was really interested in this one, and also Chris Handy, the designer of this, he's done other games that I've really liked. And so I wanted to check this out. Now this is a roll and write. I love the cartoony art in this. Just the way that the different horses look, they all sort of look and feel different, not only by the colors, but the way they look. And I like that the game doesn't take itself too seriously, because there are going to be things going on that's going to be like, oh, your plan's going to get totally messed up in this game, or you're going to be jumping on with other players, and the cartoony art sort of just fits the length of the game, the theme of the game, and the feel of the game. It's fun and light, and don't take it too seriously, and you're going to have a blast with it. Now this is a roll and write that doesn't feel like a roll and write, which is very welcome right now, because the industry is so saturated with roll and writes, and I'm so roll and write burnout that unless it's like very different like this and doesn't feel like it, I'm not even like looking twice at roll and writes anymore, because they got really popular too fast, and everybody and their mother tried to make one, and it just got oversaturated, and I'm sick of them. And a lot of other people are too, but this feels fresh and different. I mean, other than just marking off sort of like the columns and the rows of that concession stand, nothing else in this game feels like a roll and write. Like it's basically a board game that you have a sheet that you write stuff on, but that other spot is a little bit roll and write, but the rest of it doesn't feel like it. So it is a roll and write, but it's very fresh and different. So don't rule this thing out just for being a roll and write, because it is different. This to me stands out in the sort of betting racing game genre. You know, the best of the bunch in my opinion are like Camel Up and Downforce, things like that. And I love both those games for what they are, but this one stands out on its own as well as these. I think this is to be said in the same breath as these other 2 very popular racing games. That says huge things for this game. One thing about this game that I can't say for the others is that this game works very well with 2 players. Camel Up does not. Downforce, it's okay, but it's really better with more. And it's interesting because Camel Up is like really good with pretty much 3 or more players, all the way up to 8 if you have 2nd edition. That allows you to bet with other people. Downforce has a much smaller, 3 to 4 players is where that game shines, 2 not so much. More than 4, you lose a lot of the control. Here it's like 2 players is awesome, 3 and 4 is great. After that, it starts to lose a little bit of control as well, but this does things different at a different player count. So if you have those other games, this is one that you can also have, gives it a similar feel, but shines at a different player count there. This, as I mentioned, is great with just 2, which is very weird in a game that has a lot of betting and manipulating and table talk, which gets me to the next one. Table talk is great, is better with more players. You're going to be talking around. You're going to be watching what other players do. Oh, you just bet on that horse? Well, I'm going to buy him because you're obviously going to want him to win. Or something like you buy a horse when no one else bets on him. They're like, well, I'm not going to bet on him. Then you're going to be on your own trying to make this horse win. You got to kind of work a little bit together with other players, but at the same time, you still want to be the one with the most money in the end. So it's interesting, a lot of table talk that happens in this game. A lot of above the table stuff that happens that's not necessarily the rules and not necessarily gleamed from the overview that I gave you. I love the sort of economics of the money decisions. It's like, oh man, what do I do? Do I buy this horse now before someone else can get to it just so I can get it? It's about middle of the pack, but I think I'm gonna be able to make an influence. But it's got a really cool ability. Or do I use that money to do something else like bets, right? And then when you get the concessions, it's like, do I need the $7 now, or is it worth it for me to move up 2 horses that let me get there? There's all this economics of like, this action is gonna cost me this, or I could get it to do this, or if this horse comes in second, it's gonna get me this. And you're always thinking of these details. It makes you think really deep for such a light, easy, quick, breezy game. I love the flexibility of the wilds. They make sure that you never get stuck, and often, if you use your wilds at the right time for the right reasons, that's going to be the key to whether you win this game or not. I love that you're owning the horses, or maybe betting on them, or maybe both. If you go in on both, you can guarantee you're going to be on your own. But like I said, in a 2-player game, that can work for you. You can bet on a horse and then get it and then bet on it more. The other player might try to bet on it too, but they're already kind of behind the 8 ball, so they might as well go in a different direction. So I love that you kind of decide, you know what? He's got the horse, she's got the horse. I'm going to start betting on it and working with them because I can possibly make more on the betting of that horse than they can from buying it because they just bought it. They might get $35, $25, or $15 if it comes in first, second, or third. But you know what? If I bet on it this round and I had bet on it a round before and that horse comes in first and it's one of the lower ones, I actually will do better off for me winning than they will. Unless they also bet on it too. So lots of cool things to think about. The concession puzzle and bonuses is great, trying to figure out the best way to do things. You can sometimes time a row and column in the same turn and really do some huge things. The bonuses are really cool. They're kind of swingy, but you can't, I didn't mention this in the overview, you can't force another player, a horse to finish with like one of the bonuses or something. It has to be like its own roll or a secondary move from one of the other horses, and that keeps the game, nice. It makes it so it doesn't get out of control and it's like not fair. It does a good job with that. There's great decisions and lots of interactions with other players. This game's fantastic. On the negative side of things, you have less control with higher player counts. The game's not necessarily a whole lot longer with more players. You just get less turns because as players are taking actions and they're marking off sort of the jersey actions, more and more horses are going to start to move when other horses are rolled, and so the game actually escalates in that way. And it sort of balances itself out in a weird way to make the timing not go off from smaller player counts. It's just, you have a little less control and you basically get less turns. So the 7 and 8 player count, I can't recommend it. 5 and 6, I probably wouldn't turn down a game. This game shines at 2, 3, and 4. I would play it with 5 and 6, probably not with 7 and 8. But it works well. It does have a solo version that I did not play, but it does look like it's well thought out for your solo player. There's a really good variant there for that. And the other thing is the horses tended to be a little bit hard. Sometimes if you have multiple horses in one of those corner spaces, it's really hard to make them all fit. And it's hard to like get your fingers in there and move them and knock them over and stuff. I wish, and I know they were trying to make it fit in this nice small box and small package and make the price attractive. I just wish the board was a little bigger so you could have spread out the horses a little more. Sometimes it's a problem. Usually you learn to like, hey, if it's in the inside and it's going around a corner and it moves one, move it one and move it to the outside. So at least there's like a little bit more room there. Anyway, that's what I think of Long Shot. This is a fantastic, if you like Camel Up, Downforce, any type of racing games, this is up there with the best of the bunch. And for that, it's getting a Saxophone Serenade, my highest honor, which means it's staying in my gaming library, which also means I got to boot a dice game out of my section of library. Well, this has been the Game Boy Geek, breaking down barriers, growing relationships to board games, and helping you on the next one you'll love. Game Toppers not only transforms your existing table to a high-quality gaming solution, they now offer full leg kits and dining cover solutions for the full table application. Paired with their amazing, thematic, premium stitch edge mats from noted board game artists like Vincent Dutray, collapsible cup holders, and really cool accessories, it's a complete system that upgrades every game you play. Go to GameToppersLLC.com or click the link below.